For many years, our two nations were the two poles, the two opposites. They wanted to make us implacable enemies. That affected the destinies of the world in a most tragic way. The world was shaken by the storms of confrontation. It was close to exploding, close to perishing beyond salvation. That evil scenario is becoming a thing of the past. Reason begins to triumph over madness. We have left behind the period when America and Russia looked at each other through gun sights, ready to pull the trigger at any time. Despite what we saw in the well-known American film, The Day After, it can be said today, tomorrow will be a day of peace, a day less of fear and more of hope for the happiness of our children. The world can sigh in relief. The idol of communism, which spread everywhere social strife, animosity, and unparalleled brutality which instilled fear in humanity, has collapsed. It has collapsed never to rise again. I am here to assure you, we shall not let it rise again in our land. I am proud that the people of Russia have found strength to shake off the crushing burden of the totalitarian system. I am proud that I am addressing you on behalf of the great people whose dignity is restored. I admire ordinary Russian men and women who, in spite of severe trials, have preserved their intellectual integrity and are enduring tremendous hardships for the sake of the revival of their country. Russia has made its final choice in favor of a civilized way of life, common sense, and universal human heritage. I am convinced that our people will reach that goal. There is no people on this earth who could be harmed by the air of freedom. There are no exceptions to that rule. Liberty sets the mind free, fosters independent and unorthodox thinking and ideas, but it does not offer instant prosperity or happiness and wealth to everyone. This is something that politicians in particular must keep in mind. Even the most benevolent intentions will inevitably be abandoned and committed to oblivion if they are not translated into everyday efforts. Our experience of the recent years has conclusively borne that out. Liberty will not be fooled. There can be no coexistence between democracy and a totalitarian state system. There can be no coexistence between market economy and power to control everything and everyone. There can be no coexistence between a civic society, which is pluralist by definition, and communist intolerance to dissent. The experience of the past decades has taught us communism has no human face. Freedom and communism are incompatible. Russia has seen for itself that any delay in strengthening the foundations of freedom and democracy can throw the society far back. For us, the ominous lesson of the past is relevant today as never before. It was precisely in a devastated country with an economy in near paralysis that Bolshevism succeeded in building a totalitarian regime, creating a gigantic war machine and an insatiable military-industrial complex. This must not be allowed to happen again. That is why economic and political reforms are the primary task for Russia today. We are facing the challenges that no one has ever faced before at any one time. We must carry through unprecedented reforms in the economy that over the 7 decades has been stripped of all market infrastructure, lay the foundations for democracy and restore the rule of law in the country that for scores of years was poisoned with social strife and political oppression, guarantee domestic, social and political stability as well as maintenance of civil peace. We have no right to fail in this most difficult endeavor, for there will be no second try, as in sports. Our predecessors have used them all up. The reforms must succeed. I am given strength by the support of the majority of the citizens of Russia. The people of Russia are aware that there is no alternative to reform, and that this is very important. My job, as everybody else's in Russia, is not an easy one, but in everything I do, I have the reliable and invaluable support of my wife and of my entire large family. We realize our great responsibility for the success of our changes, not only toward the people of Russia, but also towards the citizens of America and of the entire world. Today, the freedom of America is being upheld in Russia. Should the reforms fail, it will cost hundreds of billions to upset that failure. Yesterday, we concluded an unprecedented agreement on cutting down strategic offensive arsenals. They will be reduced radically in 2 phases, not by 30 or 40% as negotiated previously over 15 years. They will be slashed to less than 1/3 of today's strength, from 21,000 nuclear warheads on both sides, down to 7,000 by the year 2000. And it has taken us only 5 months to negotiate. And I fervently hope that George Bush and myself will be there in the year 2000 to preside over that. Russia has brought its policies towards a number of countries in line with its solemn declarations of the recent years. We have stopped arms deliveries to Afghanistan, where the senseless military adventure has taken thousands of Russian and hundreds of thousands of Afghan lives. With external props removed, the puppet regime collapsed. We have corrected the well-known imbalances in relations with Cuba. At present, that country is one of our Latin American partners. Our commerce with Cuba is based on universally accepted principles and world prices. It is Russia that once and for all has done away with double standards in foreign policy. We are firmly resolved not to lie anymore, either to our negotiating partners or to the Russian or American or any other people. There will be no more lies, ever. We have made tangible moves to make contacts between Russian and foreign business communities much easier. Under a recent legislation, foreign nationals who privatize a facility or a building in Russia are given property rights to the plot of land on which they are located. Legislation on bankruptcy has been recently enacted. Mandatory sale of foreign currency to the state at an artificially low rate of exchange has been ended. We are ready to bring our legal practice as much as possible in line with world standards, of course on the basis of symmetry with each country. We are inviting the private sector of the United States to invest in the unique and untapped Russian market, and I am saying, do not be late. I would like now to conclude my statement with the words from a song by Irving Berlin, an American of Russian descent. God bless America, to which I add, and Russia.